Yeah, I have been given this daunting task of having this session after lunch to keep you guys awake and engaged. So our topic here also matches that. It's about employee engagement and the strategies of motivation and productivity. How do these two match? I have with me very esteemed speakers here who have combined experience of more than 100 years, right? It would be that with all of us here together. And we will be having a extremely energizing discussion on a topic which is very, very close to everybody's heart: employee engagement. With employee engagement comes in the competitive edge of any company. Employee engagement, if you have engaged employees, your company's productivity increases. We all are from HR, we all know about it. So what are the different strategies that what some of us in our different companies, we take care so that the employees are more engaged? It's been said that worldwide, only engaged employees are a minuscule number of 23%. How do we make this percentage much higher? How do we have strategies that would get this number much higher so that the companies can benefit out of it? Research shows that leadership, if they also incorporate employee engagement in their corporate strategy, then they have far more gains year after year. Today we are here to discuss what are these few drivers for employee engagement. Is it a caring employee, a caring manager? Is it development of a person? Is it the purpose of the person that connects with the purpose of the company? Or is it the ongoing conversations that most of the companies keep having so that the employees are engaged? So with that, let me ask my first esteemed guest, Sheetal Bhanot, what is the importance of employee engagement in driving motivation and productivity in workplace?
Thanks, and I think that was a very apt introduction into the employee engagement a bit and concept. So I think, yes, we all are HR people and we view things differently, but it's different strokes for different people as far as engagement is concerned. So productivity, motivation, I think they are all linked. If a person is engaged, you give your best to the organization. You are self-motivated because it's impossible to create motivation. But it's, as HR professionals, I think it's extremely important to understand what works for an individual. And there is no vanilla concept or there is no perfect recipe which really works. You really need to identify and diagnose the things which work for your employees, I think. And that's the beginning for an HR person. How genuine, how concerned you are for their well-being. And I do not know whether I'm answering your question directly, but I sincerely feel one thing is that, you can't have one strategy for employee engagement which works for all. You have to distribute it so that you pick and choose what works for you. For example, a career conversation for someone, visibility of the role, visibility of my future career is important to a few people. Therefore, conversations which are very open conversations are important as far as the engagement of an employee is concerned. For others, it's the well-being, health, balanced life. So you have to create avenues which engages your employees and say that we really care as an organization. For some people, especially in urban cities, it's very difficult to actually practice your hobbies or live your passion. You come for work because that's one of the necessities. So does the organization provide enough avenues where you can actually translate your passion, translate your hobbies back at the workplace? Does it give you opportunities? And most important for all of us, I'm sure, is the recognition, the respect which an organization can probably give. Creating mentors, creating leaders in an organization who know how to recognize the contribution is one of the key elements as far as an engagement goes. And if we do these right, it's very important. And not to mention that, it's very critical that you keep the families engaged. Because one of the ways in which you have engaged employees, one of the ways in which you have lesser attrition and more of retention is largely when the family itself is a contributor to the fact saying that we would like you to stay back in the organization. Why are you leaving? The family becomes a very important bonding between the member, that's the employee, as well as the organization. I think these are some of the few things which one can probably initiate. Yeah.
Thank you so much. My next question is to Farida Patel. How can organizations create a positive work environment and that promotes engagement and productivity?
In fact, this question is very, very interesting because it says engaged and motivated. And I was just discussing this, that one can be engaged only when one is motivated. Okay, and so they are synonym. And I agree to what Sheetal mentioned. There's no elixir's liquid that one applies to every organization you swallow and you have engaged employees or motivated employees. It depends on the age of your organization. Okay, the business of your organization, the spread of your organization. So when we design an engagement plan, or rather in my organization, we don't even call it employee engagement. We term that as employee experience. And so an employee experience plan, when it has to be drawn, we need to understand as to which stage the organization is. For example, I work for an MNC startup, which is just a 2-year-old now. Not that I always worked here. I worked for Tatas and Staples and HDFC before I moved here. And for me, the experience has been varied. With this organization here, what I realized, what matters to my employee more is communication. It's an MNC startup and they want to understand how are we phasing in. So largely when they wanted to be a part of it, they want to be a part of it. We also creating an environment where we say that, and mind you, I'm an IT, technology and service. We started in the times where it was post-COVID, all work from home, and we started with me as employee number 1, and we said all work from office. And today I sit on 430 in 2 years' time. So when we started this, I thought technology, people were disagreeing to come in. They wanted to work from home. It was a tough task. It was building the brand in the market. But what I realize is we've created enough for the first 50 to get the experience to spread that across. And so that's how it is. Understand the organization, understand the market, understand the people, the function, and the individual. And then we all have studied various motivator theory. So whether you need to apply Maslow or Hertzberg or Room, it depends on how the function is, at what stage the organization is.
Thank you. Communication is a very important part of employee engagement. My next question is to you, Kshitij. How can leaders and managers communicate with employees to foster engagement?
So I think the managers and the leaders are the most crucial part because they are the brand ambassadors of the organization. They are the face of the organization. I think Sheena mentioned before that where people join organization, but at the end of the day when they join, they want to know where do they belong, whose team do they belong, and managers become the key advocates. So I would probably divide this into 2 aspects. One is on a hygiene level, are your line managers the HR managers for the team? And Farida spoke about employee experience, because employee experience is given through the managers. So one of the things that we kind of drive in our company, we are into lift, we help you go up and also come down. So one of the things that we've done is a program called HR for non-HR, which covers basic aspects of what an employee should know, whether the manager is having first day lunch with him or not. The second aspect is whether the manager knows the PMS process, the development review, all those hygiene processes which a manager should know about, right? Second aspect is the ability to influence and inspire, in the sense, engage heart, hands, and mind. And in that, the most critical aspect that we drive as an organization is a listening organization. And it was really tough because if you look at the industry, we are highly unorganized industry, right? Where you deal with QSQT. QSQT is quarter se quarter tak. Everything becomes urgent, right from the peon to the CEO, and whatever urgent becomes important, right? I mean, you drive those things in business, employee engagement, or HR के initiative side में रखो, right? But you drive with business, it's very important that how do you inspire and influence. So one of the things we looked at and we realized that organization is changing, so are our customers. The builders who are there, who are customers, their sons are also and daughters are also getting into business. Our demography of the organization is changing. We have 72% millennials who do not like to be told what to do, yeah? And in order to do that, we have to move from a directive style to a more of facilitative and a coaching style. So we started this initiative where the leadership team went through a coaching certification program, and then we ensured every line manager undergoes coaching. I remember most of the business people, and they said to me the worst program I ever attended because मैं सिर्फ realize किया कि मैं customer की सुनता हूँ और किसी की नहीं सुनता हूँ. And I think it's so important for these people to also, listen first. Empathy, it comes secondary. So when you drive those programs, it really helps a difference. Third aspect that has worked for us is something called reverse mentoring. We have so many millennials who are now teaching the leadership team how do you increase your followers on social media, right? Because they are there, their strengths needs to be leveraged. So we need to have some platforms.
First, in fact, to make the Instagram or these accounts before you start the follower.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And last, one thing that we did in the pandemic, we started a podcast where we invited leaders from all sections within the organization and outside, and we had an open conversation. Our sales head is an introvert. He never talks to anyone, but we wanted to prove a point that even introverts can be into sales, who do not have a gift of gab. And you will not believe we have more than 1,000 plus people joining it because they could relate to the content. So as an employee engagement is changing because how the context around is changing. So these are few things which has helped us drive engagement through the line managers.
Thank you, Kshitij, for letting us know there are so many effective communication and these different strategies that help. My next question is to Tapan. How can organizations measure employee engagement?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I think theoretically, so I'll talk about two aspects. One, you have a lot of measures in which you can measure it, right? So you can do engagement surveys, you can do pulse surveys, you can do ENPS, right? You can even do one-on-one. So a lot of pointers which can give you insights on what is the current level of engagement at the organization. You can have one-on-one conversations to gauge. You can possibly have exit conversations which can be analyzed. You can have turnover ratios. You can have absenteeism, etc. Right? I think more important for us should be whatever insights you draw out of it, you analyze and then you take action plans around it, right? It's the implementation that makes all the difference for us. So in my view, and I'll talk about my organization. So we are a facilities management organization with about 17,000 people. Most of them are blue collared, right? So now getting a pulse of what they're feeling on the ground is really tough. Right, and I rely on my managers on the ground to really see what's happening, right? So, to add to it, technology might not play a big role in the kind of people I manage, because a lot of people might not even have smartphones. So, I have to rely on people who are trained well, the facility leaders, to get the right pulse, launch interventions like, let's say, HR buddies across, or create leaders within leaders to be able to gauge that right. So overall, yes, engagement on the ground versus engagement that we know of in head offices could be very different. I mean, theoretically, I might say, yeah, the engagement ratios are high, the attrition ratios are low, etc., but the ground realities could be different. So as a HR leader, to get down to the ground level, to understand the realities, the actual things, and then analyze and act on it. I think that's how it can work for us.
Thank you so much. So my next question is to Rohith. With his vast retail experience, I just wanted to ask you, what are some common challenges that organizations face in improving employee engagement, and how can they overcome these challenges?
Sure. So thanks, Pooja. And speaking last is always disadvantageous because all the points have been covered. But just to set a context, I'm a part of QSR industry, which is one of the most tiring industries to work because you're standing throughout. and you're serving customers. And in my case, we are serving burgers because I'm part of McDonald's. So, and you have to keep smiling, right? I mean, you can't walk out from McDonald's with a grumpy face. So that's very challenging. So a lot of customers ask us saying that, how are you able to really motivate people at McDonald's? You know, and there are a lot of case studies, by the way. But I think a fair question, because we keep hearing these questions that what beyond Rangoli and what beyond engagement, etc., etc. How do you encourage participation? So I'll bucket into 3-4 headers. I think the first and foremost challenge, and probably how we could resolve, so I'm just clubbing that hand in hand. The first could be on stating that what business priority are we solving? So if there is for example, a recognition program, because all this is part of engagement. So is it solving the business priorities, which means are those the feel-good recognitions that you give, or are those trying to recognize a certain behaviors which are important for your business, right? And we love to give more and more awards, but the point is, what are the business priorities you're solving? So that's the part one. Cut two, I would say that largely the alignment with leadership is equally important, because, for instance, most of the organizations these days have the habit of coffee with leadership series, etc., etc. So what happens literally, I'm sure times are changing, but erstwhile coffee with C sessions used to be where people get a chance to talk to the leadership. So at McDonald's, we have just flipped it, wherein it's more of an opportunity for the employees to tell the leader what they are, and the leader speaks less. It's a complete, so they come prepared. And it's more a behavioral conversation more than a technical conversation. So I think then the leader is able to see the merit of why I need this as an engagement. You don't walk out just having a coffee and a burger. You just actually remember. And there are a lot of sessions after which the leaders come up to me and say, hey, watch out for these two talent. I'm asking you to watch out because I'll need this person later on with me. Now, the next time it's easy to solve, or easy to ask him to come and say, hey, listen, if you want future talent, this is an opportunity, right? I think the third part is more important, which is, of course, all of them are equally important, but I think the third part is around the people participation. We still face that if someone is putting up their hand to participate in any of the engagement, the neighbor would say, don't you have any other work, right? So that's a standard question. But I think gone are those days where it's more of many-to-many kind of engagement, the tournaments or the engagement. I think engagement now has to be seen as one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. One-to-one is equally powerful, whether, I think Sheetal mentioned about career conversations. I think effectiveness measuring, what Tapan spoke, all of them spoke about saying that what will it take for us to engage them best, right? And I think the last and final thing is on the measuring effectiveness. I think he covered beautifully saying that there could be certain things, but sometimes as HR folks, we have to push back the business and say that, hey, go to my store and see if my people are engaged or not. What more do you need? I mean, it's a pulse, right? You go to a store and you talk to people, you see how people are serving burgers to customers, you will get to know whether people are engaged or not. So while a lot of things I agree what he said on NPS and everything that he mentioned about, sometimes it's also those intangible things that we have to place and say that check for how people are engaged. And it may not have a certain metric, but measuring effectiveness is much better. So that's how I look at Pooja, that can we align with business, then the leaders, then look at people participation, and ultimately the biggest challenge of measuring effectiveness. So that's the bucket that I would part into.
Thank you so much. So well answered. So Tapan, I would ask you the same thing again in terms of tangible and intangible rewards, what he was speaking about. What role does recognition and rewards play in driving employee engagement? And what are some effective strategies you would say?
So in my view, I think rewards and recognition are critical because one, they kind of build in the sense of belongingness. They kind of build in that culture of being appreciated, right? So I think rewards is more about that people notice me, people observe, or people appreciate my contribution to the organization. And when they see positive outcomes of that, that is when, you actually like we've been talking about this being a family, right? So when you really feel part of that family, your engagement levels are obviously higher, your productivity improves, right? Hence, I think R&R, rewards and recognition, is key to any organization's success. Right? On the second part of the question, which is strategies towards R&R, I think right from appreciating or rewarding people on small wins, right? I would say, let's say instant gratification. So some minor win or some small accomplishment should be rewarded. People will feel that yes, somebody has observed, somebody has appreciated. Because in general, right, pointing out gaps or errors is easier, right? And culturally, so for me, I think it's a culture that has to be there. Managers, and that's my personal experience, managers end up pointing out gaps. That happens more often. But people don't really talk about those small wins because they think that's part of the job, right? So for me, starting from the quick wins starts that culture of appreciating people. Second part is cross-functional appreciation, right? And we are all from HR, right? So the first thing that I heard when I joined HR was HR and admin, two functions are the favorite punching bags, right? Everybody comes back to you when there is a mistake, but you are not really appreciated. So that culture starts from that. Then cross-functional appreciation, peer-to-peer rewards, that brings in or sets in the right culture of an organization that is more positive, forward-looking. Rewards-wise, I think career development could be another way of rewarding people. So if you want to reward somebody, guide them, advise them, and then possibly sponsor their development programs. That could be another way of rewarding. Then another piece that I think is critical now is engaging their families within the R&R framework. Because whatever time an employee spends at workplace is the time that we've taken away from family. And that sense of belongingness for the family is also very important. So I think all these pieces and bits and parts are the ways we can leverage.
Thank you.
Thank you. So my next question would be to three of you, Sheetal, Farida, and Kshitij. You all belong to different industries. What would be different and innovative ways that you have practiced in innovative practices that you all have in your field that is so different and which we all can also know and then imbibe?
So Pooja, very relevant question, but I just think that this conversation with all the panelists sitting has become an issue of how do you engage people? What are the innovative strategies? I think human beings by nature are simple people. And the employees we hire also are simple employees. I think we should first learn to treat them very simply. What works for them actually works for the engagement purpose in the organization. So first and foremost, the sincerity of building a culture which itself believes in engagement is the most innovative strategy as an organization which you should follow. Just create a culture. It's walk the talk. If you believe from the leadership team down to the grassroots level, automatically people will start feeling belongingness to the organization. I think that's very critical. Secondly, success for us in organizations is achieving revenues, reaching your targets, getting rewarded for the targets, etc. I feel just celebrate. Whether it's a festival or whether it's any other occasion, whether it's success of the organization, share the success because the ownership is automatically built. One person, what I realized in Infra.Market, we have an attrition which is high. We belong to an Infra.Market, is a part of an infrastructure organization. We are into the B2B, B2C places also, manufacturing units. The kind of the people are, very, very basic people who are your electricians. You have got people who are working in the RMC plants, cement industries, etc. They basically want to understand the purpose, what they are doing, how they are contributing. And I think we should make it extremely simple to celebrate with them how you are going to actually function. They need to know exactly how is the success of the organization connected to them. So I think, and to the large part which Farida mentioned, communicate with them. So that's important. Sometimes you go wrong. So we have been speaking about what can we do which is right. sometimes organizations take a decision which is very management centric. Like I remember, and I'm witness to that crime because I was a part of it. In Johnson & Johnson, I remember when we were there, and it's one of my favorite examples is that, for the Best Achiever Award, we had announced a holiday, Sunday spent with the managing director of the company. That was to keep him engaged with the organization. And you know what? After the entire episode that Sunday, that Monday morning, the employee walked in most demotivated because he said, "Madam, सुबह सर के साथ ब्रेकफास्ट कुछ खाने को नहीं मिला, उसने हमको सिर्फ एक कुछ हलवा जैसा कुछ दिया, and he was like cursing me." And then after that he said, after that he took me to play golf. Okay, and when he took me to play golf, I don't understand the game, कुछ भी नहीं था, वो कुछ भी नहीं कर रहे थे, वो चल भी नहीं रहे थे मैडम. मेरा पूरा दिन सत्यानाश हुआ, and in the evening he said, "My wife said you wasted my holiday and I was late back home." He said, "I was very embarrassed because my managing director's wife, madam, उधर थी, तो गाड़ी में बैठने के लिए भी तकलीफ हो रहा था, किधर बैठो." So it was a bad experience. We thought from the management perspective that we are doing something to engage, to motivate, to reward a person. But it doesn't work because that's not a reward for him. Had I told him, "Take this and go to Lonavala with your wife," he would have been very happy. He would have thanked us for it. So wrong strategies by the organization, not understanding the people pulse is the problem. Otherwise, we all are intelligent enough how to engage our people. So my only one thing out of my experience would be, keep it as simple as possible and see what works for whom. It is more than being innovative, it's more being more direct and asking for feedback. Surveys and other things people do take up. But finally, for them, it's tick in the box because then there is an HR person saying, "Arey, 50% nahi bhara hai, so many, please follow up," and all of that. HR BPs, guys, get up on your feet and things like that. So make it very simple, and whichever position we are throughout your career, what has worked for me, I can only share that with you. Be very close to every person in the organization. Relate to him. And that works, what works. If you are sincere, if you are genuine, you don't need to design strategies. It's your behavior. People teach you how to actually make it work. So my only one submission would be, keep it as simple, keep it as natural, keep it genuine, and it will have to work. People will be engaged.
Thank you. Farida?
So while I was listening to Sheetal, a couple of things really stuck and made me think on a very different light. And especially because when I deal with 3 geographies. My tech hub is in India, but my colleagues are in Germany and Poland. And when they visit us, in the last 2 years when they've been visiting us, what did they have to say about us on employee experience? They found the team here extremely engaged and happy. And the reason why, and when I was hearing Sheetal, I realized that celebrate. The essence of India, because the religion that is largely, followed in India speaks about celebrate life. That's why we have celebration every month. Okay? So we have a holy following, Gudi Padwa following something. Because it's all about celebrating life. And again, what I can relate to what Sheetal said is our people are simple performing complex tasks. Okay? Bringing these two together in my organization, especially where I have techies, in the age, my average age is 33, okay? They think they are no less than Bill Gates, okay? And they have been, coming from, they are the pedigree. And when engagement comes in, I had a set of leadership which says, let's do a techathon, etc., etc. What I realize is, when we floated this, of course, we also have coffee with the CEO. We are a small organization, so easy connect, monthly connects. What came out is, basically, we have 2 things here. So we have a flash mob team, and we have a choir, which is ETNS flash mob, Ergo Technology and Services flash mob. I didn't realize when we created, the first thing that they came on the floor was to celebrate Natu success. And I had suddenly a group of 30, 35 people all over the floor and synchronized. That was engagement, that was experience. So what I realized is there are these little groups. The choir performs on my foundation day, and so much in tune and in symphony, nothing orchestrated, nothing done by the organization. What we only did is facilitated them to be together in groups. No money, okay? Absolutely nothing. For Women Day, I'm just giving you a simple example. For Women Day, when, kya milne wala hai, how are we going to be treated? As simple as this. We broke the monotony, and this is what we've been doing it. The woman of the company is basically a mother, a wife, a sister, and is so busy with so many things at work and work. So what we did is we just gave them 1 hour and be mad. Just be you. So there was a trampoline, there were balloons, there were games, and then we suddenly realized what they came out with is an experience rather than taking away a bag. So, or a cake piece or a gift. So we've realized that there's this simple people who are connected to very simple thing which they enjoy. And that's what our Indian culture is also. So rather than doing something big, we've been bringing out things around. For our first anniversary, what did our people do? And you should see this, we bought sound absorbing acoustics. And we bought colors. And we had 300 people. And said, bring the child out of you. And all of them splashed, colored, had textures, were wearing bibs, and coloring and etc., etc. And they had fun. Little did they realize that it was a Friday, they went back. The Monday when they came out, we had these sound absorbing cut into facts, pictures in a manner which says, from a caterpillar to the butterfly on the wall. And everyone's like, because they didn't really knew, that this can be an artwork and said, this is my impression that I'm going to leave in this organization. So all this is some sort of experience which is motivating people to be a part of this organization. And mind you, to an IT company, which is a startup in India, we work all 5 days, 9 hours a day, not a single person coming and telling us that we want hybrid or work from home. I mean, that's the experience. So that's for us.
Thank you. How about you, Sheetal?
So I think the first, I'll probably share 3 practices that worked for us. And before I share, the key aspect for any innovative practice to be done is to look at the context, understand the business context. I'll share one of the business case with you. So we had a business context and challenge was attrition, which is a typical HR problem always. The second aspect which was there that we had in pandemic, almost 50% people who've joined. And the key aspect when we ask people to return back to work. Yeah. At the end of the day, we are a lift company. Lift ghar pe baith to lag nahi sakti hai, right? So the organization took a call that everyone come to work. The key challenge was nobody wanted to come to work. We were engineers. They were people coming from ISRO, and there were a lot of engineers who didn't want to come because they realized that this is something which is very good for us. And we had to call them up. So the key thing that we wanted to do is, now the 50% people is new. We want people to engage, communicate with each other, share knowledge. So one thing that we moved from a perception survey to more of a data-driven survey. So we did an intervention called as organization network analysis, where we did and measure the social currency of the organization. And we looked at networks. So for example, we asked simple 6-7 questions. Who do you go to if you want to gain knowledge? Who do you go to when you want to share something personal? So trust network. Who do you go to when you look for an idea? Innovation network. And with those questions, we were able to identify key networks within the organization. We were able to identify who are the promoters of the organizations, who are isolates and silos, who are not engaged, who are nobody they are reaching out to and no one is reaching out to them. Who are the influencers within the organizations who do not have a title. And with those data points in hand, we contextualize it with the line managers and understood why this person is an isolate or a silo. Maybe he's new to the organization. Yeah. And basis this, we took 3-level intervention, work at the org level, where we realized that the innovation and the energy was slightly down post-pandemic. And second, we looked at departmental level interventions and individual level interventions. So on org level intervention, we did an intervention which is called as the second practice, which is called as large scale interactive process. I feel this is something which is an age-old practice. In 1990s, Henry Ford's and a lot of automobile companies used to do that, where is to declare their MBOs, where is to call entire organization to come and decide their performance management system. And this is a practice where there is a solid dissatisfaction in the organization, where there is a solid resistance to change. But the vision of the organization is very strong. And we did this practice just before pandemic for one more division of sales and operations, because the service business was feeling that they are no longer important. Everything sales wal leke jata hai, all those shiny things and everything sales takes, they are the bread and butter, but service at the end. They don't feel that they have a career in hand, and they were not basically feeling inclusive. And that's where we kind of proposed this large-scale interactive process. And the first thing that my head says that tu khichdi kar raha hai, because you are asking service people, but you're asking 300 more people, because we had to get all stakeholders in the room who have a say for service. So for service, we were 80 people, but I had to call the sales people, I had to call the back office people, the HR people, all those people with whom these people work. And then we talked about what are the current mindset and what is the future vision. Because if you look at in India, we are 20 years in the industry. Aage ki jo service hai, it's all about service and repair. That's where we are going to get the revenue. It's going to be another big organization in itself. And when they looked at the new vision, they realized that, oh, this is something which is very critical. And the facilitation was done by the leadership team, who played the catalyst role. So that is where they realized, and when we finished the entire setup, everyone was highly inspired. We had a candle lit, and we kind of played a song, and we kind of took an oath with a new mindset. And we created a mindset tree, which is still there in the organization, because event to chale jate hai, right? And you go back to normal life. It is important, how do you reinforce post that? And we built a rewards and recognition scheme around those aspects. So I think that's my second thing. And the last, but not the least, which is very relevant, is the well-being, I think, which Sheetal also mentioned about physical, social, mental, financial well-being. So we had a theme around, we had various communities, because you have cyclists, you have marathon runners, and various. But how do you engage those things and how do you encourage them is something which is very important. And basis those data points from organization network analysis, the last thing what we did was we invited their families to the organization, and we gave their wives letters, recognized them. Yeah, and on the leadership team, I have a ring which basically measures whether I have drank water or not, right? And wives are very happy because half of their job was being done with this ring. So it's an ultra-human ring which captures, whether you walked enough or not, whether it's a movement or not. Because at the end of the day, leadership has to do the role modeling if you really talk about well-being. Otherwise, well-being remains a lip service, right? So these are some things which really
Great ideas. Fantastic. So my last question, I know I'm coherent of the time also, is to you, Rohith. Basically, how do you see future of employee engagement and evolving, and what should be the organizations be doing to make it better?
Sure, thanks Pooja for that. I mean, a lot of inspiration from all these four who spoke about keep it simple. I really like what Farida and Sheetal mentioned about it. But so how is it evolving? I mean, two parts to it. One is, I would say that the evolution has to happen around the whole employee value proposition. At McDonald's, again, taking the example. So a lot of times when we have to relook at our EVP, whether it is policies, etc., we are very fancied about what other organizations are doing and what you read in the newspaper and who has introduced new set of leaves, who has introduced new set of flexi working, etc. But over here, what we have been doing in the last 1 year, and Pooja, that's been very highly successful for us, is we do what is required for people. So we hear people what they want to change. So if there is no need to change, we don't change. So if we say that, okay, this quarter we are picking up policy A, B, C, and D, we roll out to a set of people as a sample because the universe is pretty large, about 14,000 people. But we take a set of sample population. We ask, A, is there a need to change? And B, what is that you want to change? Because what happens is otherwise we change for the sake of it, but the attrition remains double digit and high double digits, right? So then the question keeps asking, business keeps asking, saying that, why did you change, right? And another 6 months later, we go back and say, hey, now petrol prices have hiked, now we have to change again, electricity bills are, inflation is high, so we do everything around that. But I think this has really worked. But answering to what you asked, that how do we evolve, I think most important, if EVP has to evolve, it has to evolve through what people need and keeping it simple, like my colleagues have mentioned, saying that. So that's definitely one. Even for example, induction, we do it in a very different way altogether, that a chatbot is already asking the questions what you want to ask, rather than we having a set of slides saying that this is what we are, this is what we are. They've gone through that before they joined, right? And now I don't need to say what McDonald's is, who invented McDonald's, what was the first burger, what was the taste. It doesn't matter. So for me, what is important is what are the questions I have in mind that I want you to answer, right? So, and multiple more and more examples I can keep sharing. But net, if I have to summarize, my first point will be that EVP is more bottom up rather than top down, because then the acceptance is very, very high. And this has to keep evolving in the similar stage every time, because even tomorrow Gen Z is 90-95% part of your population. They will tell you what you need to change. You don't have to say how am I going to change. So that's part one. I think part two is also about a lot of personalization and customization. I think gone are the ages where the Gen X and Y and Z and millennials, we all wait for annual awards, on the stage, recognition. Look at the classic example she spoke about, that the person did not even enjoy the recognition that he or she got, right? I think times are changing, times are evolving. Instant gratification, purpose-led gratification is the name of the game. So as more you personalize of what is impacting my life in this workplace, I think that's what will work more. And that evolution is absolutely challenging, but at the same time never ending. There is not a single point where we would say, okay, we have reached the pinnacle and now this will stay till Gen Alpha Plus comes on board. No, it doesn't happen that way. So that's the second part, saying that as much the EVP can be driven from the organization bottom up, equally important is to understand and recognize how much do we customize and personalize for making it an impactful proposition to the people that matters the most.
Thank you. Thank you so much for such a wonderful conversations. I'm sure the audience has also really enjoyed it. We are short of time. To summarize what my esteemed panelists have said, is to keep it simple. Basic thing is employee engagement is all about keeping it simple, connecting to the people, connecting to them in a very basic way. Care, connect, coaching, all these are things which will really take you far. Also, the basics of employee engagement, like encouragement, your empowering anybody, having that energy is all very, very important. So I give it back to you, and if there are any questions you want to ask, please do that. I think we just have some 2-3 minutes or something like that. Any questions? I hope we've kept you awake and engaged. And motivated, yes.
Especially when we, in training, learning, say, post-lunch sessions are graveyard
sessions. Dead
sessions.
sessions. We call it that.
Okay, so with that, I think our session comes to an end. A big round of applause for them, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mr. Vishwas Tripathi, Vice President, Service Delivery, Beyond People, to please come on the dais.